You wouldn't let somebody else tell you how to spend my money. And they paid you back. About multiculturalism, and yet not a one of you is in partnership with a Korean. Not one of you is in partnership with an Arab. Not one of you is in partnership with white folk. Where are the multicultural businesses? Where are the multicultural economic situations? What are you talking about, multiculturalism? Where is it? They laid it on you. And yet in Blueprint for Black Power, I talk very straightforwardly about the Korean organizations. I named the presidents. We're calling names here, ladies and gentlemen. And they are called the Korean Producers Association, the Korean Grocers Association, the Koreans of Greater New York Association. One has convinced us that thinking conceptually is a non-African mode of thought. Somebody comes telling us that we are a non-linear people, that we are spiritual and intuitive, and that thinking logically and thinking analytically and thinking conceptually is somehow the property of white folk. God gave you two sides to your doggone brain. And one brain and one side is for intuition, one side is for holistic thinking, one side is for spiritual thinking, yes. But got another side. That's that left side that is the side of logic, that is the side that uses symbols, that is the side that uses analysis. God gave you two sides. He gave you a logical side and an intuitive side. Don't let any joker tell you that the only role is to be intuitive and to be people who can only estimate and approximate. How can you look at the great pyramids of Egypt and the great mathematics and then turn around and say that you are only a spiritual and intuitive people? You've got to be crazy. Let me tell you, and this is one of the problems I want to talk about when I talk about nationalists. Be careful that in your effort to separate yourself from white folk, you don't wrap white stereotypes in kente cloth. Okay? And this is happening to a lot of us. The same stereotypes that these people have laid on us, that we can't think straight, we can't think logically, we are emotionally oriented. You must become a people who can analyze words. You must become a people with a vast vocabulary. You must become a people who can process the highest words and the most difficult words rapidly, because these are the people who are opposing you and who intend to bring your life to an end.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another live broadcast on the forecast. I'm back again. I'm not gonna be on here too long because I ain't mean to come on here this late anyway. Well, I'm gonna try not to be. But yeah, several things kind of inspired me. First of all, shouts out to the good sister Matron last night. I definitely enjoyed her reading, and y'all should definitely tune in and listen to what she was saying yesterday. Um, but listen, man, and I call this one ethnic idolatry because I should have called the last one that, to be honest with you. But something that I want to talk about and something that needs to be talked about, right? Because you know me, man. And getting back to myself, you know what I'm saying? I like to take away the things that give away black people, that give black people this hope or whatever. I don't know what's up with all of this hope or whatever that we have. But basically, we get to a point where we handicap ourselves with this dirty four-letter word hope. You know what I'm saying? And before I even get into it, I guess we'll just go along here. For just because I called it racial idolatry, y'all. Let's see if this stuff plays because my computer might mess up. If it does, it is what it is. Just get off of here. What's going on, Matron? Shouts out to Matron and shouts out to you for kind of inspired. This was a great reading yesterday, and kind of inspired this along with other stuff that I have, just been seeing, man. Like, and you know me, as I get back to myself again, I just got to take away this idolatry that we do have, you know what I'm saying, and replace it with the correct idolatry that we're supposed to have. Yeah, it's a drug that we cannot afford, which is why I'm here to take away all hope. You know, let's see if it's gonna play. Oh, okay, I got it on mute. My bad. That's my bad.
Still believe there are different races. But to answer your question,
Oh, we
yes,
know it. We can see.
it has always been my policy to target and isolate a group of people. And out of all my strategies, this skin color thing has worked the best.
Once again, divide and conquer. The oldest way, the biggest trick, and the oldest trick in the book. As as they said right here in the interview, racism,
Mm.
the biggest trap. But we're all created in God's image. And God doesn't see color. It's the world that wants to segregate and separate by giving things its own categories and naming it the power of the label. When in actuality, when the world falls for it, what they're doing is racial idolatry at its best.
Now, I can't believe that human.
Now, what this fool is talking about is, oh, of course, but like the brother was just saying, we have two sides to our brains. You know what I'm saying? Like there is a logical side that recognizes patterns. You know what I'm saying? That's supposed to be like logic and basic stuff, and then there's the other side where the spiritual stuff. You can't get lost in this. You know, in this dirty word called hope. You know what I'm saying? Because hope will keep you in a toxic relationship or a toxic situation, hoping that things will change one day, when the only way that it will change is when you change yourself and separate yourself from whatever toxic situation there may be. Yeah, I know. They can't stand they can't stand the sun. We thrive in it. And we were just talking about this. Like really we're supposed to be getting like, you're supposed to sit outside in your bathing suit and get an hour's worth of sun for vitamin D and stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? Whereas they can get 5 minutes with just their hands, you know what I'm saying? And that's enough. After that, they start getting burned by the sun, right? But it has medical implications and all of this stuff. But we want to be so friendly that we look for every single excuse to find the good white person, right? The friendly one, the one that's going to save. I call it the John Brown complex, but it's the savior complex. You know what I'm saying? Um, this is us right here, right? This owner and slave, right, sitting side by side. Peter Harrison and Jester Harrison. And like Malcolm X once said, I don't know my last name. You know what I'm saying? It's probably gonna be messing up a little bit.
When we
So
did, I've known you so
I
long.
know it is a long time.
Good
That's right.
gracious alive, but
I've still got the record though of you doing the song "Gossip," evil thing
you
that you
got that?
gave me the first time you came here.
Gotten it, you see.
Well,
Now
okay,
that's good
we have to
for.
make.
my bad for all the for all the difficulties. I don't know why there's so much difficulties, but they can't stop us, you know. But the point is, this is us sitting side by side with
Good
We
slave
have to
thing
make
owners.
for
we
someone
have to make people remember when.
remember like that. Now, I didn't know that
That's right.
because this looked like the first time I've ever seen such a beautiful thing. And I was thinking, here I am on an old
Mm,
plantation of the Hairstons that it used to own my grandparents, you
That's
see.
right.
damn, used to
And all
own my
my
grandparents.
on my father's side, the Hairston, like, they all grew up here along with Squire, like
That's right.
It's
before
us right
Squire's
now.
time, but they were all part of the plantation.
Us with the cane and all sitting side by side to think we was once and proud. Why is the dude ain't beating them? Like, okay, let me chill out. I'll be with that cane or whatever. I got a problem with authority,
No,
I
they
guess.
were
You know what
hospitals,
I'm saying?
but I grew up in Pennsylvania, where we
Said
said
the
Hairston.
Yankees. The Yankees taught him wrong how to mispronounce
Yeah, yeah, we were called up in Pennsylvania. I grew up in a little town outside of
Let me
Pittsburgh.
get to the point because the idea that we should be friends with the family of those that owned us is sickness. And they call me the sick one, you matron and Considera and some other MG2 and some of us. They call us sick because we don't want to be friends with some. And I say there is no, because it's like I don't know. We think we have both sides, but we utilize the spiritual side a lot, way too much. You know what I'm saying? And it's abuse that comes behind it and trauma and stuff like that. You know, this is why I am not personally hard on the coons, because if it was, I wouldn't talk to another black person again. I wouldn't talk to nobody ever again. You know what I'm saying? Besides like Matron and Considera and like MD2 and Anthony or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not hard on the coons, but it's important to understand this mentality, this owner and slave mentality, and this hope of being like. That's where this really come from, because we just want to believe that not all of them is bad. Well, their system is bad. How about that? We don't have to focus. I don't care about any individual peckerwood cracker or whatever. They are irritating to me when they just be like in the streets and like they just be like have this ownership mentality of this, like I own this area right here. Like they'll be riding bikes in the middle of the street, like they're like, it's just irritating, you know what I'm saying? It's just, and then even when we have to be on their plantations and stuff, you know what I'm saying? Because we are like I have the internet right now, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm on the internet talking to you. At least I could use it, you know what I'm saying, in the right way. But I probably shouldn't even have it, you know what I'm saying, at this point. Because everything that we do is funding our own destruction. Like everything that we do. Like me doing this is counterproductive technically. You know what I'm saying? Because I should be anyway. Let's go on, man. Let's go on. Um, damn, I'm sorry, y'all. This is gonna give me problems. So I'm trying to get through it real quick. Hopefully I can. Maybe I won't. We'll see. But I want to show you the next thing. Hopefully it's quick. I'll try it on the other computer next time. I don't know. Maybe I just need to get a whole new computer. And I don't know. So yeah, let me stop it for a second. And hopefully my computer come back. All right, yeah, there we go. So I'm gonna have to start just closing these out. I don't know, y'all. They be I don't know why there's always some technical difficulties when it comes to this, but somebody saying some stupid stuff, they just be running smooth, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, let's keep going. But the question is to why that we want to be their friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can use common sense as well, right?
Let's say that somebody was coming into our church and they're black, and would they be eligible for membership in our church? Yes, they of course they would. They'd be eligible for membership in our church, and
Yeah, Negro.
but would they be permitted to participate in, embody, and practice what I would call black culture?
Uh-oh.
Because the characteristics that mark black culture as a generalization,
I hate that like
in the
now when I be
same
listening back, I know that
way
the
Paul's talking.
video be skipping a lot, you know, and it be skipping some important parts. Hopefully y'all can hear me clear and my part not skipping now. I'm not using the computer, but um, it is what it is. We'll play it.
Why? Because the characteristics that mark black culture as a generalization, in the same way Paul's talking about Cretans on Crete, they are evil, murderous, violent, bestial people. They steal, they kill, they destroy, they look like Satan in how they act. They are sinful to the core.
They steal, they kill, they destroy, they look like Satan. Whatever Satan looks like, you know what I'm saying? I don't deify them. I don't call them Satan or any kind of deity or whatever. They're just deformed, different species that just got deformed. The only species, ironically, maybe not the only one, maybe it's like some ocean dwelling creatures that can't come above a certain level where it's only pitch black darkness, but they may be the only ones on land, on the top of, on earth, you know what I'm saying, on the live on land that can't go out into the sun. Certainly the only, as they classify it, class of homo. I'm not gonna say the same kind of class of homo. These homo neanderthals, right? I don't know anything else. The universe, like, well, this solar system and this earth that we live on revolves around the sun, and they cannot be in the sun. I don't know if that's devilish or not, but they came here as some people who say the Bible came here to kill, steal, and destroy. Now, the reason I don't show it because it's too easy to show how they're hypocrites. I just play them because they seem to get y'all mad a little bit, but um, the point is to listen to the message of it and maybe even adopt it of your own. You know,
Murderous, violent, bestial people. They steal, they kill, they destroy, they look like Satan in how they act. They are sinful to the core. They have besetting sins that are like fatherlessness, sexual immorality. They molest children at a high rate. All of any criminal statistic that you can look at,
hilarious.
almost pretty much without exception. One of the
It's not
purposes of it,
projection for you at its
one of the
finest.
points of utility for it, is for repudiate it, and also for policymakers to make the kind of political movements. And
I don't know why it does this because when I listen to it, the video is smooth. I can't hear the choppiness until later, so I'll fix it. And I probably shouldn't have came on today, but if I don't come on when I got the energy, it ain't gonna be the same.
is for black people who do not embody that culture to repudiate it, hate it, and also for policymakers to make the kind of political movements and in terms of law and order that would usher in the change over time of that culture. One of them would be something like, I tweeted about this, the law of Moses in Deuteronomy 21 concerning a rebellious child. If 5 to 6% of black,
Well, Matron here is quoting the Bible, you know, on what should be the punishment. But I would say not only in the Bible, but it appears to be walking around in life is a curse too. It's a deformed thing, you know what I'm saying? Like, see, they're kind of stupid, you know what I'm saying? So they think later means evolved, you know what I'm saying? They think evolved means better, but it doesn't. It just means change, you know what I'm saying? So you being in a dark cave with no resources in a dark area, dark, wet place, or living in the forest somewhere, you adapt to not being able to go to the it doesn't it makes it worse, in fact. You know what I'm saying? That's why we would classify it as recessive, you know what I'm saying? Because we can enjoy the planet. They can't understand connection and all of this stuff, but we have this hope that we can somehow connect with them, that somehow we can reach them with this spirit of love, you know what I'm saying? And if we love them enough, and I can't blame the Bible for that, because before they even beat us over the head with Christianity and made it and beat Christianity into us, we were still welcoming them to around the campfire. So I can't blame that. It's the spirit within us that probably, if there is this, you know what I'm saying, is probably showing us that you cannot be friends with everybody. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's okay to have racial idolatry.
To 6% of black, I think it's something like 5% of black males are murderers. Think about that?
Yeah, 5% of young Africans are committing the bulk of the.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
Let me tell you the correct stat. Less than 10% of the Earth's population, yet over 90% against the crimes against humanity. Over 90% of the crimes against humanity, less than 10% of the population. Damn. I mean, that's the correct stat.
you had 100 black men
In
in a
America.
room, even just specifically, if you had 100 black men in a room, 5 of them would have committed murder, which is a lot. Quite a
And
few.
What is Matt Walsh?
statistically.
And it's crazy because probably 20 of them would have committed murder, and probably 40 of them would have committed some kind of sexual assault on a woman or even a little boy, right? Because we know Greek culture, you know, which is pretty scary when you think about it. You know what I'm saying? But when we think about white on white crime, like, it's a plague on the planet. We think we can be there. It can't even be their own friends in the first place. You know what I'm saying? Before they met us, they was living in the forests about to die off, but they still found time to make weapons to fight each other, right? To go to war. You know what I'm saying? Even though they couldn't reproduce like that back then, probably. You know what I'm saying? But they found time for war against each other. This white on white crime is a epidemic that is got to be solved. Quite frankly, how should we solve it? Let this white dude tell you how you solve
The
it.
actual number of blacks who are committing murder is more than
Whites.
whites,
Right.
and whites are significantly greater
60% compared to 13% of
percentage
the
of the population. Yeah.
So if you take that, then you took a law like Deuteronomy 21, which
Well, I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna stop talking, but I don't know what percentage of black people there are in the earth. You know what I'm saying? Let's just say, what, 60 something percent? Probably, if anything, I would say probably 3%, maybe 2% of the crimes against humanity. Less than 10% and 90% of the crimes against humanity. Right? Because then you have some Denisovan Asians, you know, y'all know them as Asians, but they have Denisovan DNA or Denisovan or however you pronounce it. Yeah, white families are the biggest producers of mass shooters, rapists, and welfare recipients. To name a few. Also murder, you know what I'm saying? Um, a bunch of crimes, you know, heinous crimes. But I'll let them finish.
whites are significantly greater
60% compared to 13% of
percentage
the
of the
population.
population. Yeah.
So if
That's
you
what
just take
the Bible
if you take
tells us
that,
what
and then you
to do
took a
with
law
them.
like Deuteronomy 21, which is a just law that God enacted through Moses. The law was that if you had a rebellious son, you have a child they're coming up into their manhood and they're rebellious.
Black people is the
They
fathers
don't
of
listen. He lists some
humanity, right?
characteristics.
We the fathers of humanity, right? All right. So if you have a rebellious son, I don't believe that. I don't think that's not my belief. Some say they're devils, some say they're aliens. I don't know what I don't know what they are. It's not my job to figure it out. It's only my job to show you what's going on.
they're coming up into their manhood and they're rebellious. They don't listen. He lists some characteristics and they won't, even though they're disciplined, they will not turn. He says the fathers to bring them out into the town square. This is a rebellious son. And then they stone him to death. They kill him.
And an armed robber would certainly be one of those.
Oh, absolutely. Robber, all the ghetto
violent
culture,
crimes.
basically take ghetto culture. It would describe this to a T. If you did that over 3 generations, how much violent crime would you have in the 3rd and 4th generation? Much.
Now notice this: 3 generations. Grandfather, father, son. Over 3 generations. I heard a Russian dude say, how do you infiltrate America? You want to get into the school system. And by that, 15 years, because you'll have 3 generations of students coming through. And by that 3rd generation, and we've seen it in action, like, you know what I'm saying, from what if we really look at it, you know what I'm saying, with the whole school integration thing and all of that stuff. 3 generations have changed us from what we was doing in the 60s to burning down stuff, pulling them out of cars, beating them up, saying enough is enough, to, and now we still wanted to be their, well, some of us still wanted to be their friends, but to now look at us how weak we are today. 3 generations is all it takes. 15 years. Like, according to that dude, that white Russian dude, 15 years is all it takes to change the mentality, he said, of a country, because you infiltrate the school system, and after 15 years, that first generation will be into the workforce. You know what I'm saying? And then you start having the younger people coming up. So 3 generations is all. Now we can apply it to ourselves, right? Or apply it to whatever we want. But see, they understand this 3 generation thing, you know what I'm saying? Father, grandfather, father, son, you know what I'm saying? And by the time the grandfather passes away and then this next son comes along, that's where we are today, you know what I'm saying? That's us. Cloned out.
Much less. What we've done instead is we've tried this to a T. If you did that over 3 generations, how much violent crime would you have in the 3rd and 4th generation? Much less. What we've done instead is we've actually, with unjust weights and measures, we have wildly penalized whites for even virtuous acts in lawfare. And we have done everything because liberals have appointed blacks to positions of power and they're practicing ethnic.
Oh, by the way, this dude calls himself a pastor. And let's be honest, it might be the same God as you have. So I don't know who, how, and what calling people here. But you hear that in 3 generations, you will stop their actions from what doing. If they know that there will be consequences within 3 generations, really, the next dude ain't gonna try you, but you will see.
We have done everything because liberals have appointed blacks to positions of power and they're practicing ethnic and racial in-group preference measures. We have wildly penalized whites for even virtuous acts.
That's what he was
lawfare.
saying. This pastor said virtuous acts, and he was talking about the murder of black people, most likely, because he was like, we have punished them. And the only time they've been punished, they got like 2 or 3 years or something for killing the black people a couple of times. And we celebrated our civil rights victory, you know. But he calls it virtuous, right? And why we don't be like, we just be angry at what they say, but why say that, right? Because protection of yourself and of your culture, and for them, their culture is, we know, your warfare and molesting kids, it seems to be, you know what I'm saying, just based on their art, is about killing and molesting children, sleeping with children, seems to be that their culture, right? I'm not an expert on Greek culture, but I don't want to be.
We have done everything because liberals have appointed blacks to positions of power and they're practicing ethnic and racial in-group preference, like the several black women who were involved in releasing DeCarlos, the murderer in the Charlotte?
I think 14 felonies.
times.
Yeah, something like that.
Absolutely. We practice racial idolatry around here. Or do we not?
His younger brother was a murderer in prison. His father
father.
was a violent criminal. Okay, so there's two sons and a father. If they'd cut that line off back the generation or two before, there's no DeCarlos to slit the throat. But what we have instead are, and in this case, the double whammy.
All right, I'm gonna be quiet and let him finish, but listen to what he's saying. What if we had cut this off at the pass, right? All right, what if black people was as violent as they say we are? But anyway, let's go. Listen to this from your
14
own
felonies.
point of view.
Times.
Yeah, something like that.
His younger brother was a murderer in prison. His father was a violent criminal. Okay, so there's two sons and a father. If they'd cut that line off back the generation or two before, there's no DeCarlos to slit the throat. But what we have instead are, and in this case, the double whammy of black female judges, politicians who have appointed these sorts of people.
The mayor of Charlotte, for example.
The mayor of Charlotte, like if you look at who appointed the judge and the judge that released him, it's two black women. Okay. And what did they do? They said, oh, it's mental health, it's homelessness, it's this, it's that. It's not a criminal tendency of black males that needs to be cut off through the wielding of the sword by the civil magistrate.
Boy, oh boy. So what if we did practice? Because we are Americans, but we don't practice Americanism. We are Bible people, but we don't practice Bibleism. Because those ways is to protect yourself and violence, you know what I'm saying? They go conquering, you know what I'm saying? Now, this is coming from a preacher, you know what I'm saying? Was saying we need to cut off the lines, you know what I'm saying? Probably a preacher of possibly the same God that you believe in. And you have to ask yourself whose prayers have been answered. Anyway, thank you, preacher, for Neanderthal, preacher of the Neanderthal mindset. Um, I appreciate that. All right, so I'm gonna let this sister speak. This sister has a message.
If you ever think you can come around me and say anything to the extent of, oh, that's why black people can't have nothing, or that's why white people don't want to be around us, or this why we ain't allowed to do nothing now. If you ever bring that slave rhetoric around me as if you present your whole life to be at the behest and whim of a white man, if you're living your life wondering what action you can take or not take to have white people accept you, you need to stay the hell from around me. Because the level of embarrassment that I will give you in this town will be iconic. There is no need for anyone to be worried about what a white person thinks about them, ever, at any point in time, in any place. And if you feel like that, you need to stay the hell from around me. Because I am all black, I am all Trinidadian American, 1,000% of the time, and twice on Sundays.
I'm with her 2,000%. I don't want them.
Yeah, well, you should have married that way. But anyway, that's not against him. Now listen, man, on my quest to find this good white person, since nobody like, hey, like this is my good white friend here, you know what I'm saying, and brought him in, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, hey, let's examine what have you done, you know what I'm saying? Have you destroyed the system or taken out? All right, I'm not gonna say that, all right. But I've searched through time looking because usually they say, "Oh, Schwarner and Goodman." So it's been two white boys in the last 70 years. Oh, I'm sorry, it was 61 years because the white boy that came on here with the same talking point as the black dude that came on here said Schwarner and Goodman. And the same thing that they said on talk shows in the 90s, because there's only been two of them in the last 60 years that have come through for you. And I agree with Khalil Muhammad. I don't know why they were there, to be honest with you. It could have been some suspect stuff going on, and we can talk about it if y'all want to talk about it, because I know in your efforts to find this white hero, so let's go through all of these white heroes, you know what I'm saying? But let's not just talk about what it, because we just stick to the story that we heard. We don't look at the person, because what pisses me off is that we don't even understand what the white abolitionist stuff is, you know what I'm saying? The white abolitionists don't believe you're a human. Half of them, most of them, like 90% of them was like, yo, we need to get black people out of here because they're going to rise up and kill us one day. That was most of the abolitionists. They didn't want to bring in slaves because look at what they're doing in Haiti. Look at what they're doing here. Look at all of these slave rebellions that we keep having. Right? It's easier to enslave a child who don't know freedom than it is to keep trying to take people who knew freedom is gonna keep fighting for it. Because when you're a child, you don't know what the hell freedom is. They understood that. Like it's easier to enslave a child than it is a grown person that knew what a. Because you can always teach them that this hero is always this white dude in blonde hair that ride up on a horse and I guess white you only you off into freedom one day, or that white girl sleeping next to you is going to somehow buy yourself some freedom, but it ain't gonna happen. But anyway, so y'all like to talk about, first of all, one thing that pisses me off. You know what I'm saying? And shouts out to Matron for her reading yesterday when she was talking about like that was she's reading a great book. You know, and talk about white friends. And one thing that we love to do is be like, well, race is a construct that was created and just yeah, they might have made up white, but white is just a word that's in English. You know what I'm saying? They made up English too. You know what I'm saying? But I can see the difference between Kelly Clarkson and Kelly Rowland. You know what I'm saying? And then they'd be like, well, that was a time where we were unified with white people. No, the hell there wasn't. You should win. They don't even unify with themselves. What treaty do they keep with anybody? What group shows any loyalty to themselves, especially us? And one thing that they love to talk about is this good old Bacon's Rebellion. He was the original John Brown, right? If the story of John Brown didn't exist, it would be Nathaniel Bacon as the most radical white boy ever. He was the original John Brown. All right, so I guess I'll play this one. Hopefully, this is a black dude. I don't know. I didn't look at him. I should have looked at him, but I was hurrying up because I'm already late, and I'm probably gonna be super late. But whatever, I don't care. We gotta examine y'all saviors. Oh, neglected. That's what they calling it. Let's look at the good old no, when race was even though it had already been like a dozen, like a bunch of laws, like in the modern time is 1400s to now is the modern enslavement of us, and I'm pretty sure before that was other stuff going on, and they was out of the dark ages, and then they, whatever. But so Bacon's Rebellion. Oh, did it?
challenged power, it led to the establishment of race as a class system, creating
See, this
divisions
is what
that would
pisses
shape
me
future.
off though. They people misuse and because it's like, and it's not probably not on purpose. It's out of this hope that you got good white. It's the hope for this unity, this hope that they're not who they are. You know what I'm saying? This is why it pisses me off knowing the truth about what happened. You gotta read and like I'm not gonna say I read everything, but I'm saying you gotta look up and research and watch every single thing you can find on all of this stuff, and you can find the actual details of the truth instead of the hope that there's this white savior somewhere out there, right? Because most of this stuff, you got to realize the mentality that most of the abolitionists were black people. Underground Railroad, all of that stuff was mostly black people and black churches. You know what I'm saying? The real truth about black churches, well, far from what it is today. The black churches was monumental in that, you know what I'm saying? But we only look at the white people that we think did something.
Dynamics
What
for
up, bro?
centuries. In this video, or how one uprising redefined the meaning of race in early America.
Bacon's
Bacon's
Rebellion.
Rebellion, which
It
occurred
did
in
not
1676,
redefine
a
anything.
pivotal moment in history that contributed to the racial divide we see
Some
today.
bullshit.
Led by Nathaniel Bacon, the rebellion was fueled by discontent among Virginia's frontier settlers who felt neglected by the colonial government. They sought to address grievances against Native Americans and demand more land for settlement. This uprising highlighted the
Grievances.
tensions between the wealthy planter class and the poor settlers. In response to the rebellion, the colonial elites sought to strengthen their control and prevent future uprisings. They implemented a system of racialized slavery, which distinguished between white indentured servants and enslaved Africans. This shift was aimed at creating a divide that would unify the white population against a common enemy, enslaved people, and indigenous groups. As a result, laws were enacted that codified racial distinctions and privileges, laying the groundwork for systemic racism in America. Bacon's rebellion served as a catalyst for these changes, illustrating how social and economic tensions.
Now you see, this is the original John Brown, right? Of the John Brown complex. But the problem is, like, we just look at the surface level, you know what I'm saying? And we don't understand the mentality that just comes with, I guess, the Neanderthal DNA, you know what I'm saying? And it's not me just saying this, like, but I don't care anymore. But let's look at the truth about this dude, Nathaniel Bacon, this colonist, you know what I'm saying? Um, so this dude here was born in England to influential landowner parents, meaning his parents were rich as hell, right? He wasn't just some white dude who was down with everything and trying to free people. He went to the University of Cambridge, right? A bunch of went to the same school, I guess, to study about the God that you believe in, right? Um, So his family gave him enough money to make the trip over here. He was rich, you know what I'm saying? Now, this dude here, and you can read it here, um, he wanted to be a part of here you go. Bacon appointed in 1675 when he got here. He appointed himself to the council. See, he wasn't trying to change it or nothing like this. This is what most of these abolitionists the mindset is, you know what I'm saying? He wasn't trying to change the system. This fool appointed himself to the council of the thing to be a part of it. But they didn't accept him. They thought he was like a weirdo and goofy or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? For whatever reason, they didn't accept him. Right? So he got mad. And this is for us, right? Now, what this dude supposedly unified it, because once he got mad, he was like, yo, well, I'm gonna get the black and I'm gonna get everybody just to rebel, because what he wanted to do was go kill the Indians. Right now, if we saying we Indians, that would mean he united us, or unless you're gonna say we was the Africans, that means he united us to go kill more of us. Does that make sense? No, this dude was trying to get power. He wanted to go kill more Indians to take their land so he can rule over that land, since he couldn't be the ruler of this land. You know what I'm saying? But we going to be like, oh, well, this white savior was trying to. No, he was just trying to be in charge of this situation. Right? This is why I like talking about, because when people say this stuff, they just hear the story. Oh, well, he led this rebellion. No, he wanted to go kill the Indians. Now, if we was the native people, you can't believe in both of these dudes. You know what I'm saying? You can't believe in both. Right? You got to be against Bacon's rebellion. He wasn't trying to unify. He was trying to kill us, if you believe that. And if you believe the African thing, I don't know what to tell you. You know, he just wanted to be in charge of you on his own land. He didn't give a about you if you believe the story of what happened. But it was the Anglo you know, it was this war that they had with Indians, and the Indians was whipping their ass like everybody does. Yeah, yeah. Um yeah, I could have added the King James thing. I could have went back further. That's true. Um, who sanctioned England to get into the slave trade? Absolutely. But if you believe that you are an Indian, that's what Bacon wanted to do, was to kill you, right? And if you're a black person, that's what he unified you for, to kill Indians and take their land. Is that what you're down for? He united you with white people to go kill Indians. But you know what happened to him? I ain't reading all this. Y'all can look it up yourself. I think, let's see, it's gonna say the end. He died, right? This dude ended up dying of diarrhea. I believe it's him. He ended up dying of diarrhea, and then his rebellion was over. You know what I'm saying? Then he met his death. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, and you got to think about it, back then you could die of diarrhea. So his rebellion ended because he had, um, let's see if it says that. It's gonna be lying on here. Like, y'all can't believe this thing. Oh, they call it uh, dysentery, but it's diarrhea pretty much. So the first good white person that we found in history died of diarrhea, pretty much, inflammatory bowel disease, or severe diarrhea. That's why he dies. That's the end of the first good white person, and that unified us to kill Indians. Is this what you down with? This is what you look for in your good white people? That's how he ended. Who else? Okay. Benjamin Franklin was known as a good old abolitionist. Oh, it's a complicated story. He was complicated. Complicated my ass.
During his time as a delegate to the Constitutional Convention, Franklin, a former slave owner, had accepted the presidency of the Pennsylvania Society for Promoting the. He had considered introducing a statement of principle into the Constitution condemning slavery and the slave trade, but several delegates had persuaded him to drop it.
You hear that? Did you hear that? He condemned slavery and the slave trade. Did you hear that? Let's give this white man well, we have given him a statue. We memorialize this fool. Oh yeah, that's the other one I should have brought up too. That dude stealing all the patents, stealing people's patents and stuff like that. But anyway,
condemning slavery and the slave trade, but several delegates had persuaded him to drop it.
The question of anti-slavery, pro-slavery was not an important issue for the vast majority of people who wrote or thought about or argued about the American Revolution. On the other hand, given the fact that it is the daily...
let's get a Negro on here to say some BS. Because we don't like, the thing is why I guess my take on history about what happened is like because I'm coming from a black perspective, like not a school perspective or a European educated perspective. I'm looking at what happened from, if I was in the shoes, what would have happened to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is why I know that, show me this good white person. This is why I'm saying. Because y'all, not the girl that you laying next to, because I know the truth. Like, why are you saying this? But not her, because once you piss her off, then you're gonna be like my brother Pledge on here. Like, yeah, I learned my lesson. Like, these white girls, like, well, I'm sorry, my brother, but I had to.
daily reality for enslaved men and women, in some ways, that was the key question every day.
The gross hypocrisy in fighting a war
Blah, blah,
In
blah,
place,
blah.
Franklin felt free to address the issue head on.
To the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States, from a persuasion that equal liberty is still the birthright of all men, we earnestly entreat your serious attention to the subject of slavery, that you will be pleased to countenance the restoration of liberty to those unhappy men who alone in this land of freedom are...
See, this is why they call them dudes, all of them dudes, the white abolitionists who they talk about. This is why they call them this. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm going in order and time frame, you know. But I'm not gonna play this long thing because who cares what the hell Benjamin Franklin's speech was? You know what I'm saying? But you hear how they put it with the tender European music. Dun, 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 dun. You know, black people, we be jamming. You know, we got our own. Even the way we be jamming. Even when you go to church, like the church people be jamming. You know, we go to cookouts, we be jamming. You know, it's just different. But you hear that how they try to make it tender, like, oh, good old Benjamin Franklin, good old abolitionist. But like maybe I shouldn't have asked it, but who cares, you know? Um, Ben Franklin was the original white nationalist. He was the first MAGA, you know. This is why they be putting them fools on the side of mountains and stuff. They was the original white nationalists, you know. He said, throw the term, I guess it's the AI, but I don't know, the AI be on this saying on some BS, you know, but he said, though the term white nationalist is a modern one because he was the creator of it, right? This abolitionist, right? His early writings contain expressions of racial prejudice, xenophobia that align with some nationalist ideas. Oh, you don't say. So, why did he say this? A desire to increase the number of purely white people, right? This is the abolitionist movement, right? Um, he said he feared that Pennsylvania would become a colony of aliens, quote unquote, due to German immigration, and worried that German immigrants would not adopt English customs, right? But so as for non-white populations, he was like, why should we darken its people? Why increase the sons of Africa by planting them in America where we have so fair an opportunity by excluding all blacks and tawnies, which is Mexicans basically, like the brown, like, but black and tawnies and increasing lovely white and red. See, he liked Indian bitches or Indian girls, you know what I'm saying? Like Pocahontases and stuff like that, you know. And I say that because, you know, look at what the Indians did to you. So I don't got no respect for them. But this is what made him, they didn't necessarily want you, you know what I'm saying? They said, why increase the sons of Africa by putting them in America? Right? So most of the abolitionists not necessarily even felt bad about it. They just was like, well, if they, as Farrakhan put it, if they ever get the power, they fear that we will do to you and your sons what we have done to them. Right? And they just wanted to kick you out of that, you know what I'm saying? And so he became president of the Society for Promoting the Abolition of Slavery, right? And he submitted a formal petition to Congress urging the end of the slave trade, right? So, um, right. He was the original white nationalist, right? So they don't want to be like he is, because it's a modern one, but he created it. So what are you gonna say, right? And they're gonna make excuses for it. It's just like, well, why? You know, what's the point? I guess we don't have to do this one. Thomas Jefferson one is pretty easy. I realize that I say stuff and people don't know like stuff I think people do know. But Thomas Jefferson is pretty easy. We could do that another time. So I'll skip that one. Um, I don't know what he said. I forgot. But I put it on here. So let's see.
The abolitionist movement was a very important movement and an indicator of the fact that many whites were troubled by slavery.
What are
In part,
they?
they were troubled because they began to read slave narratives, that is, the accounts of former slaves
Well, I will say this. They weren't troubled by the money. That's for sure.
who escaped from slavery, such as Frederick Douglass's. And they realized that this was antithetical both to Christianity and to the claims of what America was about. So people like William Lloyd Garrison and a whole range of others began to speak out, sometimes at great risk of their own lives, against slavery. A couple of very interesting abolitionists active in the slavery cause were actually uh, women from Charleston, South Carolina, who had been the
All right, so I would say this, right? I didn't have time to even go in on that point, but I will say this though, because a lot of this stuff was like in Pennsylvania and the dude we talking about, and now if you read this book, The Delectable Negro: Power, Desire, and Cannibalism in U.S. Slave Culture. Now he does get wild at the end of it, but he talks about a lot of these white abolitionists and how, and especially a place like Pennsylvania, which was supposed to be the abolitionist capital, where black people are still enslaved, and they trying to go to the capital to talk about why are we enslaved, especially during the revolution and all of that stuff. But these white, um, at the time liberals, that's who they would have been. You know, they was not actually down with putting in any movement or any work to change anything. You know, and maybe this is too long, but you should definitely listen to this, you know. And then also talks about, yeah, how they used to eat black people, you know what I'm saying? Especially like with these people who used to bring black people on boats who you think is abolitionists, and then when they start getting hungry, they really sit there and eat the black person. So you should check it out, you know. Um, so we'll skip that one too, you know, we'll come back to that. Now I did want to show you this one though. Now, this is another one. that people probably definitely don't know about. Now he's talking about this is an early feminist, you know. Now this white girl, one of these abolitionists, sat there and tried to make, and this is another thing because you got to realize it's not that they think that you're human, right? Is that they like, well, we should. It's the same thing as, well, we shouldn't be keeping animals in the zoo. They're no different from people who protest animals at the zoo, right? They know that they're animals, but they might not like to see the treatment, right? So this is one of the early feminists. Now she is kind of weird, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of weird what um now she tried to create this thing called a utopia, right? Where I know, and I was tripping about this earlier today. I was like, yo, this would be a black person's dream, right? Where it's like, it's really a utopia for black men and white girls, you know what I'm saying? To do some, wow, it was just some freak stuff going on, you know what I'm saying? And she called it experiment. Because another thing they do is raise a lot of money, even though they already have money. They make money off of it, you know? And they called it a failed utopia, but really it was probably just some weirdo stuff going on. But I do think that this would be, this is what we actually trying to achieve though. Like, not freedom, not equality, but this utopian freak society where you can have all the white girls that you want. Cause that's what it sounds like to me, you know?
Could be emancipated without their owners losing money by starting a utopian community in Tennessee. But 2 years later, a visitor would see just how far things had gone wrong. I'm reading Domestic Manners of the Americans by Francis Trollope every day and giving you the highlights. This is day 2. Let's get into it. So the year is 1827, and Francis Trollope is traveling up the Mississippi on the way to Cincinnati when she meets another woman named Frances, the Scottish-born Frances Wright. Frances Wright was a free-thinking social reformer whose ideas were way ahead of her time. She advocated for many
A
things that we
white
take for
whore.
granted these days, like birth control, legal rights for free women, and of course, emancipation. Her big idea was that the government should allow slaves to work on public land so that they could earn money to purchase their freedom. She actually discussed this plan with Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, who apparently voiced their support. To show that it could work, she purchased 30 slaves and moved them to Neshoba, a property that she owned in the woods outside of Memphis. At first, things went okay, but
Now think about this. She pitched it to Thomas Jefferson and them, and they was like, "Yeah, we can do that, maybe, right?" Because we just seen the mindset that they was trying to have, right? Now I think that this is what black people actually want, right? And I'm gonna tell you why it failed. You know,
so that they could earn money to purchase their freedom. She actually discussed this plan with Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, who apparently voiced their support. To show that it could work, she purchased 30 slaves and moved them to Neshoba, a property that she owned in the woods outside of Memphis. At first, things went okay, but by the time Francis Trollope shows up, it's evident that the community had fallen into deep disrepair. Trollope describes it as a desolate and sickly place. It's in the middle of this deep, thick forest that's accessible only by a narrow road that is frequently washed out by storms. Mosquitoes infest the area, and Frances Wright had to leave in 1826 because she came down with malaria. It was on a return journey that she met Francis Trollope, and by the time they got back to Neshoba, it was evident that her leadership was the one thing that was keeping everything together. The farmland around the community had failed to produce, or managers had taken to instituting harsh.
hey, this dude saying some BS, man. And he's talking about her leadership. Now, first of all, yeah, they give you the harshest land and all of that stuff. But this is the mindset with a lot of these white saviors that y'all have, you know? They feel like, well, I have to be in charge. Like, it's like, yo, what, even the ones that be like, yo, what they have done to you is wrong. But you are, like they say you are. And I have to be in charge of you to make sure. And she ran the community into the ground on some freak stuff going on. Are you black man, white woman, utopia type stuff? You know what I'm saying? Um, I ain't all of this stuff was just pretty weird, you know.
Into an antidote to slavery. That plan became Neshoba.
We talked about this plan in earlier episodes, and Cheryl Coulthart had a great breakdown of it in episode 1. But just to recap, Neshoba was an intentional community where Black and white members lived side by side. By working together, the enslaved at Neshoba would earn enough profit to pay off their purchase price rapidly, all while learning important life skills and gaining literacy and basically the education that was denied to them by law in some U.S. states. The enslaved
Like you see, she had that white girl, I'm supposed to be in charge kind of thing. Oh, I'm a minority, so what I say they play both sides, the most dangerous species in the universe. And she feel like I gotta be in charge and I have to lead you Negroes to freedom. You know what I'm saying? Like I have to be this savior, right? Because they have the white savior complex too. They suffer from it too. And we be drinking it up. Oh Lord, have mercy. There's gotta be black, there's gotta be Jesus coming back. All I need to see is a white face and 32 teeth smiling at me. That's all I need.
manumitted and resettled to a place like Haiti where they could live in peace. Neshoba was intended to be the model for other self-sustaining communities that would make a potentially devastating economic transition relatively easy for those economically dependent on slavery. At the same time, it would help enslaved people become citizens who could enjoy their freedom.
Now, this was a venture, even though it wasn't meant to enrich Fanny personally, and she sunk her own personal wealth into it. She sought investors and business partners, as well as donors and new members.
At first glance, this seems like an unusual, maybe even bizarre experiment and wild choice for a woman of means to make. This was a radical action.
But even
Now, you see how they try to boost it up as white bitches, you know what I'm saying, themselves, right? And try to boost it up. But she went around collecting, even though she had money and come from a wealthy family, she went around what you would call it today is grifting or scamming somebody to get this thing. And white people gave them money because they wanted you to get the hell away from them, right? And you would be under the control of this white feminist, the original feminists, you know what I'm saying? That's the other thing I should have brought up. I'll do that on another one because I guess I can remember her name if I think about it, but I don't feel like thinking about it. But the original white feminist, I think it's Rebecca something. But anyway.
radical actions are of their times. How did the Neshoba plan fit into the broader context of American attempts to improve social conditions and into discussions of slavery? We asked a few experts to help guide us. The first is Sean Griffin, a scholar of labor history who most recently taught at the College of Charleston.
The Neshoba experiment is in the mid 1820s, which is sort of an intermediate period both for the anti-slavery and labor movements. I think it's important to sort of frame Neshoba for all of its flaws, in the context of, pre-Garrisonian immediatism, which really doesn't emerge until 1831.
Can you define immediatism for folks that might not be familiar with that term?
Yeah, so I mean, in the literature on anti-slavery, although this can be overstated, I mean, most folks, I think, see a break around 1831, which is the year that William Lloyd Garrison first publishes The Liberator and comes out sort of guns blazing, saying, I will not
Marcel, you don't have to look at this William
I will
Lloyd
not
Garrison.
hesitate, and advocates for the immediate abolition of slavery, whatever that means. And it's not always clear what that means, but it means in contrast to gradual.
All right. I'm not gonna subject y'all to listening to this, but y'all should listen to this. But this is Neanderthals talking about Neanderthal stuff too. But you need to listen to this from a black context, man. But not just this though, all of it. You know what I'm saying? The whole context. You have to go year by year and look at the context behind all of it. All right, it give you clues when they say like they went to go talk to Thomas Jefferson and all of them stuff, and they plan. We know who these people are. It gives you clues about this white savior stuff, man. Damn, I'm gonna hurry up because I want to hurry up and get through this, but I have to talk about certain things. And yeah, there's the whole utopian societies that they tried to create and they all failed because they ended up being some weird black woman, I mean, black man, white girl kind of fetish society things, and none of them worked out. So, and let's be honest, none of these communities is going to work out as much hope as you want to keep because you can't. Anyway, so of course, damn, I thought I had some more stuff, but of course, you had your good old boy Lincoln, who a lot of black people love. It was a story that a black woman in Richmond, after he came through the war, went down and called him like Moses or some Bible thing. I don't know if it's true or not, but I believe it.
That Lincoln believed the former slaves would be better off in Liberia or other locations than in the U.S. He held this belief until his death. He even included funding for it in legislation. Abraham Lincoln's presidency is remembered for leading the United States through one of its darkest periods, the Civil War, and his pivotal role in abolishing slavery. However, there remains a controversial aspect to his legacy. While Lincoln's views evolved over time, he held on to the idea of colonization until his death, advocating for the relocation of freed slaves to foreign lands such as Liberia and Panama. A deeper examination of his actions and beliefs sheds light on the complexity of this period in history and challenges
See,
the
this
narrative
is
surrounding
this is what they don't. This is the parts they believe in because he was like, yeah, I'm not saying that they're equal or they're humans or nothing like that. I'm just saying, and this is the mentality. This is the good ones here. Damn, this is the ones that y'all bring to me as the good ones, right? Because this proclamation that he did, how many slaves is a pop quiz? And somebody answer, even if you leave in the comments later. How many slaves did Abraham Lincoln actually free? How many people did this Emancipation Proclamation actually free? I give you the answer right now. Zero. Right? And he was like, I'd never say that they're humans. We need to get them out of the country because they was white nationalists. This is your abolitionist.
Lincoln's approach to race and equality. Even before
And
the Civil War, in 1854,
I realize I have to start showing this stuff because not everybody does know this. And I hope I hope that they said it. Because everybody knows no, he did not actually free him. But the point is what he actually said, and people don't know this because he was like, if I can save the Union without freeing any slave, then I would do it. Right?
I'm not here to disrespect Abraham Lincoln. I'm here to tell the full story your history books won't tell you. Because when we don't tell the full story, we're bound to repeat the same patterns and make the same mistakes of our predecessors. And knowing your history helps you not only think critically, but to challenge these perceptions and these patterns that can find themselves in our present day. But instead, you called me ignorant of history because I dared to bring up Lincoln's complexities. So let me break something down for you. Lincoln might have thought slavery was wrong, but he was not this great abolitionist.
Complexities.
He and his party believed in gradual emancipation at best, and they did not want slavery expanding into new territories. Lincoln said out of his own mouth that Black people were not equal to white people during a debate. He also said that if he could save the Union without freeing Black people, he would. He also supported colonization, meaning that if he didn't have to free Black people, he would rather send them to another country than give them their freedom right here in the United States. And the Emancipation Proclamation only applied to Confederate states that used the Union. So the only way that it could be applied is if the Union was in a Confederate state to enforce it, and also that did not apply to any border states. They still had slavery. So for anybody telling me that I'm ignorant, and better yet, for anybody telling me that I need to be grateful that my people were freed by Abraham Lincoln, I have something to tell you. Slavery should have never existed in the first place. Shouldn't have existed in a country that when they declared their
No,
independence
sister.
from
No, sister. I'll even help you even more. not only did it not apply, he went out the way to say, I don't want to abolish slave. He stopped, and we about to get, oh yeah, that's the next thing, right? But he didn't want to end slavery because he didn't want to abandon his slave supporters, his slave owner supporters, right? So that's why he didn't end slavery in the states where he had power to end it in the first place. And the thing that he did was actually offer reparations to anyone who would free their slaves in like Maryland and I think another state, right? They offered them $300 for every slave they released, which $800 in 1850 something was a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? If you want to look at a study on reparations, you can start right there. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the equivalent of that? That's what Abraham Lincoln had gave them, and then multiply everything you have done after that. You know what I'm saying? Which is like the GI Bill, the Education Jones, the crack epidemic, jails Jones. We're gonna talk about something right now, but anyway, Um, and the thing is, yeah, he wanted to send you back to Liberia or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, not only did he not do that, he also gave reparations to the white people who gave up slavery. But it says, yo, you don't have to do it, but if you do, we'll give you $300. And none of them really did it because slaves was worth more than $300. And then you have when they was having the Civil War and black and they finally decided because I didn't even bring this up and we'll maybe talk about it on the army portion of it, how they all use the same tactics. Abraham Lincoln used the same tactics as George Washington. When he started losing the Civil War, then he bring black people in there. But when they started actually freeing black people in the South, Abraham Lincoln told them to stop freeing slaves because he didn't want to alienate the Confederate people because he wanted to negotiate because that war was basically over economics. It's not that they wanted to end slavery, they wanted in on the resources. They was like, these damn people in the South is making all this money off cotton and tobacco, and we ain't making nearly as much in the North on our industrial shit. We finna tax them and we want more. Not to end it, but this is one of the things that it led to, which was the good white people, right? The Union, who was supposed to be freeing slaves, but then they had the Ebenezer Creek Massacre. I'm sorry this is take. I don't mean to take so long, but
Abigail Sandberger supports lowering costs for Virginia families.
I don't mean to take so long, but it is what it is.
First 5 letters in history spell story, and that's exactly it. Welcome to We're There to show that history is indeed a story.
This 1,000 black refugees trail.
December 9th, 1864. Sherman's 14th Corps was 220 miles southeast of Atlanta, crossing Ebenezer Creek on a pontoon bridge. The mission? Get to Savannah as quickly as possible.
Sherman was very specific and clear with his commanders. They had to keep moving. They were in a dangerous part of this campaign. It was late fall. Weather was getting worse. He didn't have a lot of time to stall or take on things that would slow down his movement.
But a large group of runaway slaves, perhaps more than 1,000, were following behind and slowing down the march. After crossing the creek, the soldiers pulled up the pontoon bridge, leaving the slaves stranded on the other side. With Confederate cavalry closing in, many of them jumped into the creek. It's estimated that hundreds of them, unable to swim, drowned.
It becomes a moral dilemma for commanders. What we train commanders to do is to be able to make a decision to doing all they can to protect individuals, protect and respect property, but that mission is always going to come first.
Now you hear him trying to make excuses. That's how y'all be sounding when y'all be talking about making excuses for all these other groups and all that stuff and how they treat you and stuff. But the point is, right, they made the slaves build this bridge to get across this creek or whatever, and then lifted the bridge up so that they would get slaughtered. And while this is important, this led to the 40 acres and a mule thing, you know what I'm saying? A part of the whole reparation thing where they went down there. And I guess that should have been the last words. And I'll look it up. Maybe it should be. Because black people said they wanted their own because there's no way that they can live around them, you know. But let's go on. We could talk about more about that later, you know. I got to get to y'all favorite here. John Brown, the story of John Brown, right? John Brown complex that so many of us seem to suffer from. This John Brown complex. Um, I don't need to tell y'all the story of John Brown because y'all tell me better than that. But the problem is, if I ask you about John Brown any other time before that, just like the Bacon, the original John Brown, John Bacon, you can't tell me his early story, can you? So let's see. Um, okay, so it says he would the idea that John Brown only became militant because, which is what happened after his son died, is a misconception. Um, he said Frederick's death solidified his resolve. See, before that, right? John Brown was just uh average businessman. He didn't give a damn about none of that stuff. Yes, John Brown was a businessman before he died. He just had a business. He didn't talk about none of that slavery stuff. But again, him not getting justice in his own thing, wanting to be in charge of his own society and go against their system by any means, right? He would quote unquote unify, but we don't understand the context. It's not for you to get freedom, it's for you to be under them, under him. Right? This is the John Brown complex because we don't even know the truth about him. Right? His first son Frederick died in the 1830s, right? Before he was militant, because he was not militant, right? Business struggles and eventually bankruptcy, where he collapsed and got mad, just like it sounded like your boy Bacon did. All right. So he had struggles. His first wife, he got, I guess, divorced and all that. His newborn son died. And then shortly after that, his son died. And then his business fell. And then he got sick. Right. And him not having any justice and all that stuff, that's what led John Brown to be this quote unquote militant, you know. It claims it has deeper roots, but you show me this because I don't believe it. Now, what people don't even realize is that it was before that he led another Indian massacre, or they call it, they said against pro slavery settlers, but in 1856 he did what he did before that, but because he was a white dude they let him off in the first place, where all the black people who was involved got killed, right? And I was just going to show a speech or whatever, them I couldn't do that, but this is just like the tip of the iceberg because we're not going to talk about the beginning because you only know about that one raid and stuff, but you don't know anything that the whole context behind it, right? Or the motivation. And this is the problem. When you think you have friends who not really your friends, you don't know that they have different motivations behind what they do. They are not your friends. They can recognize a tool that needs to be picked up and used. We can't recognize. It's like you saying, I got to be friends with my power drill. You know what I'm saying? Or my hammer is my homie. We going to go hang out next week. That's not how it works. They can understand, like, you are a power drill. I can use you when I need you. Because what are you going to do? Fight to be a part of my stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because we suffer from the John Brown complex. And we can go into more on the John Brown scenario, but look, he did it before and he got off with it because he was a white dude and he was beloved in the community because he was an upstanding citizen because he had no problems until he had problems and he wasn't feeling like he was getting justice. Just like that other dude Bacon felt like he wasn't getting, he should be in charge of their society. Just like that white girl wanted to be in charge of this free love society, if that's what you want to call it, right? And then you have, of course, the Freedmen's Bureau. Now, I'm talking about this because Otis Howard, what Howard University is named after. Howard University is named after, in the name of doing right by black people, went around getting black people to sign these contracts, and then we name a black college after him. Like, but this was one of the good ones, right? We can name our stuff after him because he was the good one. But he was tricking all of these black people into signing these sharecropper contracts. You know what I'm saying? And this is what it ended up being.
Seven children. I mean, and it's three. Well, all of most of it's grown here now. I don't. You mean this the grandchildren? And no.
How many over 18 and how many under 18?
Well, it's our 5 over 18, and it's 7 under 18.
How much land goes with this house, Miss Tice?
It's 60 acres,
And how much of it do you have planted?
40 acres. 40 acres of it.
What's happened to the other 20 acres?
Well, as the man that applies for us, he's taking some of it, and Mr. Payton Langford.
What kind of crops do you have on this land?
Well, we have corn and cotton, most of them acres of it, and then we have gardens. Then we planted cucumbers this year.
Answer to these questions.
Well, it was no, because we don't have running water, and we don't have
All right, you know, and it don't even show like how horrible it was. All right, let me see.
sanitary inside. We don't have outside. And they asked about the roofings of the house, that did leaks, and we told them, well, some of the rooms did, and some was all right. He asked us, what do we do to prevent the water from getting on the floor? Well, he asked us that we use pans or things on the floor. Well, we told him yes, sometimes.
Are you now getting, or you or any of the people who live here getting any money from the federal government through any means such as welfare?
My mother is. My mother and one sister.
How much does that amount to a month?
Well, they get $60 a month for Social Security, and then they get $9 a month from welfare.
Well, and government shut down, all that stuff cut off next week, next month. But listen, they went around tricking black people into signing these contracts under the guise of trying to do right by them. Where they was like, well, we can make it fair. We'll send you back to your slave owners where you can work on their farm and let them determine how much money you make. Where they was able to be like, well, we'll only pay you in money that's good at our stores, but we're going to charge you for what you need to do what you got to do. So they end up in debt. And then they make a law, even though what they call peonage, and that's a law. Peonage is supposed to be illegal, where you're not supposed to arrest somebody or jail somebody for a debt. But they literally broke their own laws and arrested black people for being in debt to these slave owners under these sharecropping contracts, even though they act like this was some good white dude, you know? It's whatever, you know. And then, of course, you know, we had the good old NAACP. And instead of going in on them, because y'all shit, well, this is a organization that was founded by Jewish people, and we can talk about that when we talk about the shysters on that whole old thing. But even Ida B. Wells broke it down. The first one, she famously walked out of a 1909 founding meeting when organizers voted against making anti-lynching a key issue. And she also was critical of the white leadership and the organization's perceived willingness to compromise on the fight for full civil rights. In 1909, first one saying this NAACP an organization and why they have white leadership and why they don't give a damn about us getting lynched, right? It's called controlled opposition, right? And they know that we are willing to accept and look for all of these good white people and look for whatever so they can come in and have controlled opposition, right? So I don't have to talk about the NAACP because you can look it out because in 1909, during the founding meeting, she understood what was going on, right? And was critical of the leader of why they got white people up there in 1909, right? So shouts out to Ida B. Wells. Um, and we'll talk about this one on another time. I'm about to wrap it up now, but we'll talk about this on another time. I forgot what I was gonna play for a demonstration. But the Mordenham report, because this is leading into and we'll I guess pick it up from here then, maybe even talk about this on Wednesday because I know because me and Cassandra used to talk about this a long time ago. The Mordenham report, right? Because this is the modern white liberal. It's not that you are the N words that they say you are. It's that it's done for these specific reasons, right? Not that we aren't these things, just that we aren't doing that for specific reasons. Man, but anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up. I wish I could remember what I was saying I was gonna play at the end, but I don't remember what I said I was gonna play. So I guess just for my last thing, maybe I'll remember next time and it'll hit me later. But it is what it is. Hopefully you learned your lesson about white friends and all that stuff. We'll talk about it later. But for now, this will be my last words here. The brother said it more eloquently than I could. And it's kind of fitting for right now, especially when I hear what black people is talking about.
Read a poem for you. I normally don't read poems, but this was just so good. I got to read this one. You want to hear a poem at the African Poetry Theater? Here where culture is a weapon. All right? The poem is called, it's by brother Taim, the poem is by Taimbe Jess. And the poem is, when niggas love revolution like they love the bulls. When niggas love revolution like they love the bulls over the emblems on their starter jackets. When niggas love revolution like they love the bulls, brothers will gather regularly at barber shops and corner stops to discuss George Jackson and to discuss the handbook of revolutionary warfare and people's war before they go home to take care of their children. They love the bulls. Playground basketball courts will become military training grounds where we learn to shoot guns at the enemy and not baskets for bets. When niggas love revolution like they love the bulls, we will spend hours and hours watching our children grow into soldiers and not basketball players. When niggas love revolution like they love the bulls, we will know CIA stats, FBI stats, infant mortality stats, police brutality stats, political prisoners and prisoners of war, and literacy training techniques like we know Paxson's shoe size, or Shaq's shoe size, or the way we know Rodman or Pippen's rebounds, or Grant's salary, and all the intimate details of Michael's last gambling spree. Niggas love revolution like they love the Bulls. You will be able to ask any youth on the street, who is Sundiata Acoli? Who is Asada Shakur? Who is Sekou Odinga? Who is Ruchell McGee and Jonathan Jackson? You will be able to ask, who is Matula Shakur? Who is Queen Mother Moore? And they will be able to tell you without skipping a beat. When niggas love revolution like they love the Bulls, you will go on to ask them about Michael Jordan, and they will say, who? When niggas love revolution like they love the Bulls, masses of us will go down to tear up Carolina coroner and his office to find out what really happened to James Jordan instead of waiting on the word of newspapers and sheriff's offices. When niggas love revolution like they love the Bulls, we will show up in Washington, D.C. with the Million Man March with our God and with our guns. When niggas love revolution like they love the Bulls, they will start to seriously wonder why one Negro putting a brown ball through a white net makes more money in one season than they will make in an entire lifetime, and do something about it. When niggas love revolution like they love the Bulls, you will see Phil Jackson running up and down an empty court minutes before game time screaming, where are my niggas? Where are my niggas? Where are my niggas? As the niggas leave the stadium to go build liberation schools in their community. When niggas love revolution like they love the Bulls, all niggas will refuse to shoot ball with the president, with or without their dashikis on. When niggas love revolution like they love the Bulls, will become associated with the sound that CIA agents, snitches, rats, and agent provocateurs who join our organizations and work against the legitimate aspirations of our people who yearn to breathe free, drug dealers and others will make when they are thrown gracefully face first into open manholes. Whoosh. Nike will no longer be able to sell $160 basketball shoes in the black community because we would rather spend the money on liberation and revolution. Thank you. When niggas love revolution like they love the Bulls, they will love it more than chitlins, more than All My Children, more than Jerry Curls, more than Permanent, more than Cadillacs and Mercedes-Benz and Rolls-Royces and BMWs, cause when niggas love revolution like they love the Bulls, when niggas love their family like they love the Bulls, when niggas love their children like they love the Bulls, when niggas love to be free like they love the Bulls, when niggas love struggle like they love the Bulls, when niggas love dignity like they love the Bulls, when niggas love niggas like they love the Bulls, we will become black people and all the bullshit will hit the fan.
Yeah, when we love ourselves as much as we love the Bulls or the Lakers or the Packers or the Cowboys or the Redskins, then we will recognize that we have no friends and we are all we got. So, as always, man, we have got to start standing for something or we're going to keep falling for anything.